mornings. Real Radio 104.1. We are broadcasting live on iHeartRadio. I'm Russ, along with Angel and Angelique, Savannah, Ryan, and Carlos. And we have a special guest with us. And, guys, we've been talking about this probably. Angel, how long have we been talking about wanting to do a Monster Whiskey? It's been like since
for at least 3 or 4 years.
Well, okay, when was Michael Ring on the show? Remember when Michael Ring would come?
3 or 4 years ago.
Okay, so about 4 years or so we've been talking about it, and actually, Whiskey. I'm calling him Whiskey Paul. Is here with us today, and Whiskey Paul is the owner of the Winter Park Distilling Company. Did not realize that there was a company that made whiskey here in Central Florida. I had a great chance, an opportunity to talk to Paul about a week or so ago about the idea of doing a Monster Whiskey. And Paul, thanks for coming on, buddy. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so look at behind you. You've got a bunch of barrels, and I learned last week, or I think I actually learned this when I went on some tour before up in Tennessee. But what makes whiskey different than moonshine is that it's aged in a barrel, right? Like that. That's where is that where the color comes from?
Yeah, that's right. So 100% of the color of a whiskey or a bourbon comes from the barrel, and about 50% of the flavor of that whiskey comes from the barrel as well.
Okay, so you would not say moonshine and whiskey are the same thing?
Moonshine is still under the big umbrella of whiskey. I mean, it's the same juice. It just hasn't been aged. So it's a subset of whiskey, shall we say.
And how long is whiskey usually aged?
It depends a lot on where it is aged. So the hotter the location, the better. So, for instance, Scotch, which is, of course, aged in Scotland, where it gets hot like never, it has to be aged a very, very long time, right? A 15-year-old Scotch might not be as mature as a 7 or a 5-year-old Kentucky bourbon, whereas like here in Florida, we've got super high heat and high humidity pretty much year round, where, Kentucky gets that for 6 months or something. We get it all the time. So we have kind of a little bit of a competitive advantage over a lot of places.
Florida whiskey's a little bit more crazy, a little younger,
It
more
is a little
wild.
bit, yes.
So Paul,
Yes.
why isn't Florida known for making whiskey more than Tennessee is? I would think if we do have that heat, why wouldn't the state of Florida make more whiskey? Because you're about the only. There's not a whole lot of distilleries in Florida, are there?
Yeah, you're right about that, and there's two reasons for that. One is that the Kentucky and Tennessee region just historically has been known for that. They've been doing it for 150 years, but the other thing is the laws, right? So there's different laws in every state regarding alcohol, and the laws in Florida are shockingly not so great historically. So we're trying to work on that. We're trying to change that, but there's a lot more craft distilleries in states that have more favorable laws, like Colorado and California and Oregon. A lot of places out west.
That's part of the reason why you had to partner up with the brewery, right? Right next door to you?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so we actually own both the brewery and the distillery. The feds make sure that that's two separate entities because they are taxed differently, and that's very important to them. So, it helps to have a brewery and a distillery together. We're the only what we call brew-stillery in the state of Florida that I'm aware of, and so there's not a lot of them. There's a lot of regulatory hurdles. My business partner Andrew Asher is a very talented attorney. You need one of those if you're going to be in this business. So, yeah.
In a meeting with you the other day, I was talking to you about this idea that we've been wanting to do a monster whiskey for some time, but we didn't just want to slap our name on something, like we wanted to actually be a part of making it. Now, obviously, the whiskeys that you have behind you have been sitting for some time, so we would have to start out by picking out a whiskey that we like, that we'd want to put our name on. But then as far as going forward and making one and having it sit for a while, you said that is 100% possible, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's lots of different options there, and like you said, we're not really in the business of slapping a label on something. Frankly, when we started this company in 2010, we did not have any intention of making whiskey for anybody else. We were going to have our own brands, and that's all we were ever going to do. And then this little steakhouse over in Tampa called Burns came to us and said, "Hey, maybe we'd like to collaborate with you on this special thing." And so we sort of changed our tune. They helped that, and of course they're Burns, right? So they don't just do anything,
That's a great first
half-hearted,
partner.
right? Yeah, exactly. So
Well,
so what we've go ahead. I'm sorry, Russ.
No, I was gonna say your whiskey is amazing, and I can't wait for the rest of the guys to try the ones that like whiskey, because I know Angelique loves whiskey. I've started with you, knucklehead. Angelique likes whiskey. So does Ryan and Angel, and you let me taste it, and man, the one that was smoked, the smoke was so good. Bonfire was so good. I mean, but when we're talking about, and we all want to make sure that we taste it, and we kind of have a part of picking the one that we want to present to our listeners. But would you suggest something like a smoked whiskey like that is a little controversial, isn't it?
Yeah, it's polarizing, right? So some people absolutely think it's the best whiskey they ever had, and then other people think, that's not what I'm used to. It's a little outside of the box for me, and not my favorite. So, but there's a myriad of different possibilities in between there, right? So like you and I talked about this over lunch, that we've got like a dozen different whiskeys, some of which are behind me right now in these barrels, that are at different stages of maturity that we can bring to market soon.
Gotcha.
And you guys can taste each of those, and we can either do a blend of a couple of those, or we can just take one right out of the barrel. And that's going to be up to you guys. That's, that'll be fun to sort of see where this path leads us,
You're the best. I got to tell you, a lot of times I've been to a lot of meetings in all my 30 years or whatever, but as soon as you and I sat down and started talking, I knew we had a real good a good rapport, good connection. I enjoyed speaking with you, and I can't wait to get back. Oh, by the way, I did get the whole clear from everyone, management and everything. We just have to now sit down and do the financial part, and I know we're going to do that here this week. But everything looks really, really good to bring Monster Whiskey to market. Yes, Brian Holmes, question for Whiskey Paul.
Whiskey Paul, how does one get? Like, how did you get into the whiskey bit? It's not something you can grow up thinking like at 6 years old, like, one day I'm going to get into whiskey. So, where was that transition? How did that happen?
Yeah, good question. So you're right about that, because when I was 6 years old, it was illegal to do all this. There were no craft distilleries. There was, so, I was an economics major who now wishes he took more chemistry classes, so, but I had started and sold a couple of other businesses, and decidedly less fun and sexy businesses than this. And was trying to figure out, what was the next chapter. I went out west and thought, I'll take a nice trip and see some cool craft breweries, which was kind of a cool cutting edge thing at the time, and now they're everywhere, along with some great wineries. And I stumbled upon these craft distilleries, and that was kind of like, whoa, I didn't even know that these things existed. So I thought, man, we should have these in Florida. Like, somebody should do something about this, And so I came back, and like I said, I spoke with my now business partner, Andrew, who's a friend of mine. And I said, hey, you're a talented attorney, like, I think there's probably like rules regarding this. So like, should probably look into this. And so he did. And about a week later, he comes back and he says, so, I think we could pull this off, but I think it would be a lot less red tape if we go into the uranium enrichment business. And he was like half joking because there's seriously a lot. It took us 2 years of him navigating the legal waters to get a license to do this.
Follow-up question real quick, though. Do you have to make your own bung holes, or do you buy your bung holes?
So barrels come from cooperage. Cooper is a guy who makes barrels, and so the bung hole, which that's a bung for those watching on the video.
He's showing his bung hole on YouTube, so go to our YouTube
the bung goes into the bung hole, which is I know what you are inquiring about. So so the bungs and bung holes come pre-made with the barrels. Yes.
And Whiskey Paul, you're moving your distillery downtown, like right next door to the soccer stadium. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's like 3 blocks from the soccer stadium. It's right next to the Creative Village, the new UCF Valencia campus, which is amazing. And it come for the fall. Yeah, there's going to be 8,000 students here. There's going to be a lot of bustle around here. Yeah. We're building out a food truck park, a permanent food truck park, sort of like an a la carte kind of deal, but only with like 25 food trucks. So it is going to be a really, really cool venue. That's where we're broadcasting from today. So if you hear ambient noise and traffic and so forth, and that's what that is.
That right off of
so
Livingston?
We're super excited. Yeah, we're at Robinson and Paramore. So
nice.
Right here, butted up against the UCF campus.
Where's the name come from?
So you're willing to do a whiskey for Burn Steakhouse and the Monsters in the Morning.
We do have a couple others. But yes, you guys, obviously your reputation precedes you. You guys are just amazing and pillars of this community and have been for a very, very long time. It would be my honor to do a whiskey with you. And like you said, Russ, you and I just kind of hit it off. And there's, nobody I'd rather do something like this with.
You guys are going to be best friends till he shows up at your place dressed like Batman, dude. Just be ready. Just be ready.
Whiskey Paul, buddy, thank you so much. I'm gonna get with you probably today, and then we'll find a time to get together and start working everything out. And then I want all the guys who do drink whiskey to help in picking the first one that we bring to market for the Monsters. But really looking forward to it, Paul. Thank you, buddy.
I'm excited. Thank you, guys.
All right, but I'll talk to you later. There you go. That's Whiskey Paul.
Right,
he's from the Winter Park Distilling Company. They're going to be downtown very soon, and it's exciting. And we've been talking about this for some time, Angel. So
absolutely
to see it come to fruition is awesome. Thank you, Paul.